Because of latest techniques, different types of agriculture practices are being practiced in India as well as throughout the world. So today we are going to study the plantation agriculture. What type of agriculture is seen in plantation, and what are the advantages, what are the characteristics as well as the disadvantage of plantation agriculture. Plantation is a large-scale estate meant for farming that specializes in cash crops like cotton, coffee, tea, cocoa, sugarcane, opium, sisal, oilseeds, oil palms, fruits, rubber trees, and forest trees. So, plantation is a type of agriculture which requires a large area, and this area has a specialization that it can grow the crops which are the cash crops. So those crops are cotton, coffee, tea, sugarcane, etc. A plantation house is the main house of plantation, often a substantial farmhouse which often serves as a symbol for the plantation as whole. Plantation agriculture grew rapidly with the increase in traditional trade and the development of worldwide economy that followed the expansion of European colonial empires. So the origin of plantation is the European colonial empires. They later on propagated this technique throughout the world. Plantation, as usual, large estate is a tropical and subtropical region that is cultivated by unskilled and semi-skilled labor under a central direction. So it is usually seen in the tropical as well as subtropical areas where they require skilled and semi-skilled laborers. The typical plantation was a self-sustained community, an economic and political institution governed with the monopoly of authority by the planter. So basically, it was a community which was economically and politically governed by a monopoly authority or by a planter. Plantation crops were determined by soil and climate, with tobacco, cotton, rice, indigo, sugarcane, for example, each predominating in central zone of southern eastern colonies of North America. Now let us understand the concept of plantation. Plantation are usually near or total monocultures. This is the same species of trees planted across a given area, whereas a natural forest would contain a far more diverse range of tree species. So, in plantation, a large area is required, and in the whole area, only one type of plant or one type of species is being cultivated. So, it is called as monoculture or total monoculture. Plantation may include tree species that would not naturally occur in the area. They may include unconventional types such as hybrids, and genetically modified trees may be used sometimes in the future. So it has the collection of natural occurring trees, it has the collection of hybrid trees or genetically modified trees. Since the primary interest in plantation is to produce wood or pulp, the types of trees found in plantation are those that are best suited to the industrial application. So, the trees which are going to give a lot of commercial or economy fulfillment, such trees are being considered in the case of plantation agriculture. The trees which are going to be suitable for industrial applications are basically cultivated in the plantation agriculture. The trees like pine, spruce, are widely planted far beyond their natural range because of their fast growth rate, tolerance of rich or degraded agricultural land, and potential to produce large volume of raw materials for industrial use. So the pine trees, the spruce trees, these trees they grow at a faster rate. They require less time to grow. They have the tolerance to be good in the degraded agricultural land also, and they have the potential to produce large amount of raw material for the industrial use. Hence, this type of trees are generally preferred. Plantations are always young forest in ecological terms. Typically, trees grow in plantation are harvested after 10 to 60 years, rarely up to 120 years. This means that the forests produced by plantation do not contain the type of growth, soil, or wildlife typically of old growth natural forest ecosystem. So, in plantation, you can also have the forest where the plants are being harvested after 10 to 60 years also, or up to 120 years also. So the forest based product can also be grown or in the plantation type of agriculture for natural forest ecosystem. What are the characteristics of plantation agriculture? Plantation estates are very large. In this beginning itself, I have told you that the plantation requires a large amount of area. It covers thousands of hectares, and huge foreign and local private companies also have their land or coverage under this plantation estate. Most plantations in Africa were established during the colonial era in 19th century. The European countries ruled over African countries. They were owned by foreigners who produced raw materials for the industries in their own countries. So this type of agricultural technique was basically originated from the European or the colonial era. So as they were owning various different countries, they started developing the plantation agriculture in those countries also. Plantations are labor intensive in that they might employ a large number of workers. In the case of labor strategy, workers are recruited from neighboring countries, lead to the development of plural societies made up of different ethnic groups. So as the area is large, hence the labor required is also large so as to cope up with the work. Plantations are also capital intensive. Many plantations use a lot of money in their investment. They have their own factories for producing crops. They also have their own infrastructure. For example, light railway lines and roads for transportation of harvested crops for factory and the market. So whenever you have to do the plantation type of agriculture, it is basically done for the commercial purpose. Because of that, a lot of investment of money is done here. The processing of the crops, the requirement, all the infrastructure required, all the mechanism required is also been done, and a proper road is also been created so as to transport the raw material which is produced from the crops to the market to the factory. Plantation usually specialize in the production of single crop. So it is also called as monoculture because it has basically a single crop in the whole area. Two or more different crops are also grown in some cases. Crops on plantation are normally intended or grown for export. So only few countries have agro-based industries which produces plantation products. So it is basically basic purpose of plantation agriculture is for commercial purpose, for cash crops. Hence, it is always grown or it has an aim for the growth and for the export. Many plantation increase their output by buying local produce or buying the same product from small scale farmers. So, in this, many plantation increase their output by buying local produce or by buying the small product from small scale farmers. Plantation management provides housing for food and medical facilities and at times elementary education to their employees within the plantation. So other type of help like medical and food and housing help or facilities is also provided by the planters. So in short, we can say the characteristic of plantation agriculture is it has a single crop for farming. Crops are mainly grown for the market purpose. It has both a labor intensive and capital intensive. It has an interface of agriculture and industry. Developed network of transportation and communication connecting the plantation process for industries and markets play an important role in the development of plantation. Example of plantation crops are tea, coffee, rubber, and sugarcane. Let us see the advantage of plantation farming. The entrepreneurs inject substantial capital to the moribund, underdeveloped economy that converts it into a vibrant, dynamic economy. So, large amount of capital is invested, and you can earn a dynamic and lot of vibrant economy also. Product of plantation farming is totally dependent on international market. The slightest price fluctuation in the international market may jeopardize the system. So any type of change or the fluctuation of that product in the market can also increase the capital or increase the output of that product. As it is totally export oriented, the net volume and the value of national export increases, adding valuable foreign exchequers to the national exchequers. So, as it is export oriented, you get a lot of money as compared to your local market from the foreign market. So, it adds the value to your economy. It absorbs thousands of laborers, reducing the growing unemployment problem. So, as large amount of laborers are required for this type of agriculture, the unemployment is getting decreased. There is lot of employment to different types of laborers. Plantation farming is a complex phenomenon. It involves creation of not only industrial plants but also construction of civic amenities like roads, housing projects, schools, college, hospitals, administrative projects. Eventually, urbanization rate is accelerated. So, because of plantation, it also develops the road, it also develops the housing for its employees. Schools, colleges are also developed in that particular area, and it accelerates the urbanization also. Disadvantage of plantation farming. What are the disadvantage? Plantation farming, despite its several merits, it also is also flawless. Sometimes it adversely affects the regional economy. Now let us see the disadvantage one by one. It is not a spontaneous occurrence, rather it has been developed by outsiders, so the interest of the local inhabitants are not sustained in the long run. As it is developed or it is brought by the outsider, the local people, they are not interested or not, they do not sustain it for the long term. It produces only one product, tea, coffee, which is sold in the external market. So local people suffer from food shortage that might have been cultivated. So it is monoculture. It produces only one crop throughout the whole area, and it is the main measure term is for the export purpose. Because of this, lot of the production is being exported, and the local market, in the local market, they suffer from shortage of food. Exodus of money is in the form of profit goes for the foreign lands, which is no way improves the local economy, as the production is made or created for the intention to fulfill the foreign demands. Because of this, the local economy is not improving. In most of the cases, cheap laborers are collected from outside and technically expertise from faraway lands. This system fails to deliver a good to the local unemployment scenario and aggraves social tension. Sons of soil clash with outsiders. So most probably the cheap laborers are collected or being hired from the local area, and the expert peoples are being hired from the faraway area. Because of this, there is the clash between the laborers of the local area and the expertise, the outsider. Planters, to expand their business, try to grab the land of farmers in several ways. This creates more and more landless, uprooted people. So, the big investors, the big planters, they grab the land from the farmers, and because of this, many of the farmers are landless. Due to the dependence on international market for sale of the product, any price and demand fluctuation may also catastrophic result in the farming. Local economy may badly suffer following treacherement of labor. Unemployment may increase. If the market collapse, if the product which you have grown, if that product's demand is less, ultimately the profit you're going to gain is less. Because of this, it is going to suffer a lot. Many labors or unemployment chances may also increase. Plantation farming is not good for ecology. Overexploitation and absence of crop rotation depletes the soil fertility and increases the soil erosion. So this type of farming is also not good according to the ecology, as one only crop is being cultivated for long duration of time. Because of this, the fertility of the soil is getting reduced, and the crop rotation also accelerates the quality of the soil, as there is absence of crop rotation. Because of this, the soil erosion is also increasing. As most of the owners of plantation estates reside outside the countries, particularly at the initial stage of development, they have very little interest in the development of the region. So, as the owners, they do not stay in those countries, they stay far away from that particular location in the initial purpose till the plantation is totally finished and it has now been able to export. Till that time, they do not do any type of development in that particular region. When they need the product to be exported, then they start developing those areas. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe the channel.